representing Hong Kong and China, we have Georgie Corona. She grew up in Hong Kong before the transition to China, so she has a very interesting perspective on the history. So this is Georgie. And then secondly, we have from Japan, Hiroko Nishikawa Naman from Remax Realty. And then we have Hana Rim from Guarantee Escrow. And we have Bill Gay, Clarkskin, who's going to be talking about Turkey, and he's from Volkers as well. A lot of Volkers people. And then we have, representing India, we have Gayatani Puri, and she's with Keller Williams Palos Verdes. And then we have Irma Vasconcelos.
Vasconcelos.
That's a tough one. She's owner-broker from Coast Realty. So I'll just have them introduce themselves really quick. Here's Georgie.
Hi there, good morning. I'm Georgie Corona. My maiden name is Georgie Su, so I am actually Chinese. I was born and bred in Hong Kong, came here for college and stayed here. Been in the business, the mortgage business, for over 20-something years. And while I was doing research for today's panel thingy, China has come a long way. I mean, they caught up to the Western world within 20 years, which I think is rather amazing. And I'm very excited to share that knowledge with you guys.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hiroko Nishikawa Noman. I belong to the Beverly Hills Greater Los Angeles Board, and I'm a global committee chairwoman this year as well. So I was born in Kyoto, Japan, and then having working in Japan for over 17 years, and then decided to come to United States and stay here for almost 15 years. So I'm very honored to be here to share about the Japanese culture or business manner. Thank you so much.
Hi, hello. My name is Hana Rim, and I'm representing Korea. And I came to United States when I was 14, and I've only visited Korea once after that. I'm the escrow officer, working as an escrow officer for 18 years, and but here today I'm trying to represent Korea and let you guys know the etiquettes and any kind of question that you have as a Korean, because I'm very Koreanized actually. But I'm almost 50, so I've lived here double the time. It's more than double, but I think, and Korean is my primary language, and English is my second. So if you have any question, please let me know. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Bill Gay Roskun with Engel & Volkers in Riviera Village. Born and raised in Turkey, as well as Hannah, and my native tongue is Turkish. And left Turkey when I was 12 after learning English, and went to schools in countries like Japan, back to Turkey and Italy, and then came to the US for university, and I've been here in the United States since then. I got into residential sales in 2005 in the state of Arizona, and then moved to this market in 2009, where I've been a proud member. So I'm happy. I'm looking forward to sharing the insights I have about the country of Turkey, and I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gitanjali Puri. I was born and raised in India. I got married and I moved here. And I am happy to share details about India. And let me know if you guys have any questions.
Hello, my name's Irma Vasconcelos. Go with jealousy in Spanish. Born and raised here, and I started with Global Committee years ago. Gary Fortune, he's the one that introduced me to Global Committee many years ago, and started doing sales in Mexico, and then I kind of faded away when the market went down in Mexico, and now it's come back, so here I am.
Excellent. So you guys can see we have a very diverse group of people today, a little bit of the east and west, and just south of us. We're going to ask questions that some of it's probably going to be a little bit more appropriate to certain countries as part of cultural sensitivity, and some of it's going to be a little more Western, similar to the United States. But we'll get a little interaction going from our panelists and go from there. So I'm just opening it up to the panelists, and people can answer questions as they feel fit. So what is the appropriate way to greet somebody in your country, and what is the proper way to say goodbye? Billy, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So in Turkey, it's interesting because when you greet someone, the tradition has been to kiss them on the cheek, but you only do that really with the same gender as opposed to the opposite gender. So that tradition is still alive and well today. And upon leaving, it's not really customary. You don't need to shake hands. You can if you want to, but so with the elderly in your family, the tradition is to kiss them on their hand, on their right hand, and then bring it up to your forehead. It's a deep sign of respect for the elderly in your own family, or if you get invited to someone's home for dinner, it would show that it would show a lot of respect if you did that with the elderly.
Hannah?
Okay, for Korea, we bow, and it doesn't have to be like 90 degrees, but we do bow like this, and then we nowadays we do shake hands too. If somebody reach out to hand, shake hands, but we do actually shake hands, but still kind of give a gesture of bow. That's the respectful way that we show that we greet people. Okay. We don't hug. I mean we do nowadays here, and then we try to, but the Korean from Korea and not very Americanized, and we bow.
Irma?
Yes, we're huggers, we're kissers, we're handshakers. Name it. We're just all over the place.
So in India, if you're meeting somebody for the first time, it's okay to handshake or say namaste, and even for saying goodbye. If you're meeting some elders, it's always good to touch their feet. That's our tradition. Things are changing now, but right now that's the protocol we follow.
So we in Japan don't hug, don't kiss on the cheek, and don't shake hands. When we meet the people at the business meeting, we just bow slowly and like a 30-degree. And so every receptionist were taught at the beginning of their career how to bow at the reception. So and then although the males or females, if don't kiss each other on the cheek, yeah. So.
Hey, Georgie. Great.
The same thing with in China and in Hong Kong. Well, we don't bow that much. We shake hands, absolutely shake hands. We do bow when we say goodbye, and it depends on whether, like, if you saying goodbye to your boss, then you shake hands and then you bow a little bit. So, like, if you have a client, okay, and you're saying goodbye to them the first time, you always give a little bow, and then you shake the hands and you give a little bow. And then, when you get to know them better, like after you close escrow, for instance, then, like for me, I will give the wife a hug. I would never give the husband a hug. Totally wrong message.
Oh, very interesting. So what are some things that are commonly done in the U.S. that would be viewed as taboo in your country? Hiroko, you want to start with that?
Okay. So if you go to the restaurant, don't stick the chopstick on the rice. It looks like a funeral or in front of the grave to do it. So so we usually use the chopsticks and put it in front of the seats and then eat politely. And other than that, don't nose blowing in front of the people. It's not good etiquette. But when we go to the ramen restaurant, we make a noise. It's not. It's okay because it looks like it's very good taste to make a noise, but to eat ramen or something. So and then take off your shoes when you go into the house. So we typically almost all the house take off the shoes and then don't step into the house, although it's in the front area. So in United States, it's okay to go inside the house and take off the shoes, but we don't do it so much. Inside and outside is very strictly to separate. So please take off your shoes.
How about Georgie?
So with the Chinese, the Hong Kong, we also take off our shoes when we go into the house, but we take them off inside. So they would usually have a shoe rack right next to the main entrance, and there are some that will have like guest slippers, so that which is what I have. I have guest slippers because I don't like to wear shoes myself. So and then regarding eating and everything, like. There's always like the Chinese family style. You have like plates of food, and here you have spoons, right? That you put onto your plate or your bowl. You never pick the dishes. Like pick through the dishes. Like if there's a chicken in front of you, a chicken in front of you, you don't go for that drumstick if it's across from you. You whatever's in front of you is whatever you eat, and if it's just all bones, then it's just tough luck. You eat bones, and then. Hugging is more prevalent now, especially in Hong Kong. Hugging is much more prevalent, but not so much in business. But as in, like when you meet a friend, the first or second time you hug them, say, they call it, let's do it the Western way, and they will give a hug. But you always announce it up front because the other guy say, I don't want to do the Western way, so you give them a choice.
Okay, Hannah.
Well, Korea is very similar with Japan and China. We do have a very similar etiquette, but when you go to your seller's house or the Korean, we do, yes, take off the shoes, and then even though we don't look for the slipper. If there is a slipper, we wear it, but we do wear if I have a socks or barefoot, we go in. And if there's a slipper, we do wear it. That's how we live in here too. Even me, I have a shoe rack, like shoe case right next to the door. So if you go to Korean, the houses, like Korean people's, you can just go in comfortably, but take off the shoes and then just go in comfortably, even the socks, and they're without socks. It doesn't matter. And then, what else? The food. I heard that it's not very proper to, sometimes when even though it's a paper plate or the porcelain or whatever, we don't put it together, the empty one. Let's say we had a rice and then we empty the bowl, and then there's another rice, and then we don't put the empty bowls on top of the one that we're eating. So we don't stack it. And that I heard that we don't do that. So I try not to, but a lot of Koreans who's born here, they do that, but I try to tell them not to do it. It's the same thing as, I think, sticking the chopstick like straight up. Other than that, I think it's pretty, that's all. Thank you.
We'll work our way around to Bill Gay.
Yeah, as far as the shoes, like Georgie said, I've seen both. You either take them off outside for the entrance or at the inside. But the standard thing is the house slippers. You are always offered one to have when you're a guest. One big no-no is that we do here. We're pretty comfortable doing, but I would not do if I were you, if you were a guest in someone's home, is even after you take off your shoes, don't ever show the sole of your feet to anyone. It's a big sign of disrespect. So putting your foot on a coffee table or something like that, which we see often here, is a big no-no in Turkey. Just more generally, like any kind of like boisterous like behavior, like or like driver behavior, like yeah, let's get to the point kind of thing, is frowned upon. Is the interpersonal personal relationships are big in Turkey, so like just let the relationship kind of develop on its own accord. So that would be another big general, like in personal and business context for those interested in the business side. Try to stay away from driver behavior.
Okay, great. You get done?
So for India, I feel there are a lot of similarities between Japan, China. We also have this culture that you can either leave shoes outside or inside, and then you can walk with socks. So that is a culture in India too. One thing that we really feel that as a foreigner, the public display of affection. You know, it's very common over here as partners, or you know, you are holding hands, you're hugging and kissing. We are not that advanced yet. So that one, it might just raise some eyebrows. So that is something that one should be avoided.
Irma?
We keep our shoes on. I don't know. I think everything else, it's very similar to the U.S. But yeah, we don't take off our shoes.
Very interesting, fascinating. In regards to proper etiquette for business meetings and having meals, like who pays? Do you tip in your country? Is alcohol permissible at meals? And also, if we can talk a little bit, is gift giving appropriate? And how about if we start with Bill Gates?
Sure. So as far as who pays, it's always the host. Whoever invites you to the meal is the one who wants to pay. And I wouldn't really take that as like a bad thing, like or try to pay, like fight it. Just offer to take them out to dinner next time, and then you'll pay. So it's something that I think should be respected. The other thing is the tipping. Tipping culture is very different in Turkey as opposed to here. It's like when I was growing up, I never saw tipping at all in the smaller towns I grew up in. But in the bigger city, I did see tipping a little bit more of an accepted practice, but the amounts are very like nominal compared to like what's standard here, like 20% of the bill. It's a nominal amount, more like a donation type. So unless like you want to come back to the place and you want to be treated better next time, it's a nicer place, then I've seen the tipping go up from there. But outside of that, like the amount of the tip is nominal. Like if the bill's $200, maybe $10 even, like I've seen. It's a small amount because they're on salary, like they're professional waiters. It's not like the system here. And the level of service there is one of the top I've seen in the world. They have an entire crew of guys working around the clock on all the tables, organized by a chief waiters. So it's a little different from that regard. And what was the other question?
Alcohol? Drinking?
Alcohol, yeah. It's alcohol and is a accepted part of society. We have a national drink, an alcoholic drink called Raki, R-A-K-I. It's kind of like ouzo for those familiar with the Greek choice. So that's accepted part of both personal and business context. That alcohol is part of that.
And you want to hit on gift giving real quick?
Yeah, gift giving. So my perspective on gift giving in Turkey is that it needs to be like authentic and from the heart. Like lavish gift giving really has no place. It would come across as just disingenuous or maybe you're manipulative. If you invited to someone's home for dinner, it would be great to show up not empty-handed. Like a really great gift for that is like pastries, like baklava, or like, you know, something for the home, like small item. But like anything like bigger or any of that, I wouldn't do that. No need.
Okay, how about India?
So the host, the way you have it in Turkey, we also have the same culture. Usually the host pays for it. And yes, it's always good that you can volunteer for next time that you pay and respect that. Tipping, it's okay to tip. And for gifts, like you said, when you're going to somebody, so it'll depend. But everybody likes gifts. So if you're going to somebody's place, it's always good to take some. Or, you know, if you're meeting your client for the first time, a welcome kit or a goodie bag, yes, it's good. Things that you can avoid is anything controversial like religious gifts or, yeah, so those things, because even as Indians, we have different cultures, even we avoid doing that. So, yeah, that's for India.
Irma?
It used to be that the elder male would pay in Mexico. The man has a lot of say-so in Mexico, so when they invite either lunch, dinner, they are normally the ones that want to pay the bill. Now, you know, it can be the host, but if the male still says, I'll pay, then we have to respect that, and then they'll pay. Drinking, if the male orders a drink, then we'll follow. Otherwise, for the most part, they always want tequila. So if you're not a tequila drinker, then just, you know, order a soft drink or water. Gifts, I think I agree with them. Gifts is kind of on the same line. Nothing too lavishing, just a small gift. If you're invited to their home for a dinner, same thing, just, you know, a small pastry or a dish is suffice.
Okay, Georgie?
Tipping, well, in Hong Kong, a 10% service charge is automatically added to your bill when you're going in a restaurant. So, so when I went back to Hong Kong, I forgot about that. I'm going, why are you guys only giving him a couple of bucks? And they said, because there's 10% service charge. It does not matter how many people, is it one person or is it 20 people? They always add 10% on. In China, it's nominal tipping. Also, when I first went to China, my guide actually freaked out and this was in '96. My guide actually said, no, don't tip them, don't spoil them. And I'm going, and trust me, now they want tipping, but it's not like 20%, 10, maybe 15 max, depending on how good the service is. Regarding who's paying for the bill, let's say if I invited my clients to dinner, I would definitely pay for the bill. However, the guests will always try to fight for the bill as a sign of politeness. So even if I was the guest, I know the host, everyone knows the host is paying, but I was just like, no, I'll take care of it. But you know, but you don't push too hard, you know, because it's a matter of face for the host, because you don't want them to think, well, you think I can't afford it, right? Because it's touchy that way. So I said, no, oh, okay, next time's mine. So, and then regarding alcohol, Chinese are huge on drinking alcohol at dinners. Like literally, I mean, I see people, and I've heard of people, like they're the host, you know, they're whining, they're dining the client, okay? And the client can really drink, and we'll talk about not your wine or anything, but they drink the Chinese white wine that's made from rice wine. It's not sake, but it's very, very, it's like vodka, very, very strong. So they would come out and puke. I mean, you know, the guy would come out and puke in the streets, and then go back in and drink again. So they're huge drinkers. So if you can't drink, be careful. I mean, you can let them drink, but they literally they force it down your throat sometimes. So usually the host will bring somebody with them that can really drink. If they can't drink, then they just two-man it. As for I know this is weird, but that's how they do. But then that's how they do business. A lot of business is done. I think in a lot of Asian cultures in Turkey, that is overdone. It's done over the dinner table, because that's when they bond, I guess. And it doesn't matter whether you're male or female. You still have to drink. Gifts-wise, we never go to anybody's house empty-handed. Okay. However, let's say you're going to go to a Chinese couple to give them a CMA. That's not empty-handed because you have the report with you, so that's fine. Probably visiting somebody, at least fruit, like apples or or peaches, whatever that's in season, minimum, but nothing ostentatious at all.
Hiroko?
Okay. The same as George mentioned, we paying the dinner as a host, but sometimes we fight to pay each other, but it's kind of a pretended to pay. And then we usually drink a lot. But recently, the younger generation don't drink so much, like a millennial. So my generation, we usually serve beer or sake or whiskey, anything, and then we talk about the business a lot. So especially whenever we completed the big project, we invited the clients to have a dinner, and then usually after one dinner, we brought them to the bar or something, to the second place. And then maybe third place is karaoke. So we have tons of karaoke all over Japan. So many Japanese businessmen are very, very good at singing, like Mr. Chaya. So we have a very many opportunity to sing a song in front of the people. Usually we have a small room, not in the bar area, to stand up in the mic, like American karaoke, but we have a private room and choose any different updated songs to sing karaoke. And then gift, we have a big gift culture. For the business scene, we don't bring each single time, but I used to be a salesperson, and sometimes after long absence to meet the people, I brought some small cookie or package and then brought them as a gift. Or sometimes I went on abroad or some places to travel. Usually only a $5 or $10 or $20 small gift. We love to bring a gift, and then we love to give the gift. Always my mom, when she came here, at least 20 people's gift she bought and brought back. And then we don't have a chip, so we don't have to pay any chips in all over Japan. Whatever, it's okay.
Okay. How to treat Korean clients here in United States? I can help you. But how to treat clients in Korea? It's been very long times. It's changed a lot. So I can tell you, I heard there's no tip in Korea. So that I can answer. And then the drinks and everything is very similar as a Japanese. We do. I heard that there's drinks, and the young generation too. There's always, they go after work in Korea. They hang out together and stay very late. Like New York, they work very long hours, but then they do go out and hang out and drink. They always do drink and mingle now. But I would like to actually give an advice to treat Korean clients here in the United States. Very similar. We do go out, and whoever asks to invite, we pay. And then we do have same thing. We do have a gesture. We do 2-3 times we offer each other back and forth. No, I'm gonna pay, but most likely when Korean clients invite you, let's have a dinner, that means most likely they are gonna pay. But it'd be nice, even though you're American, but you can offer like, I can pay this one or something like that. That's a nice gesture, but we will pay for that dinner. And then next time, and then the gift. Korean clients here, we don't do like cookies. We probably do a little bit more. So like an escrow, let's say I go marketing, thank you. I try to do a gift card like Starbucks or something, a little bit more. So, and then when you treat Korean clients here after transaction, we normally do second round too, like we call it icha. And that's like we go to karaoke room, like called 노래방, and then but we don't have to drink at the dinner table, we eat. So we go dinner for the eating purpose. But then if you want to drink and hang out with the second round, then you go to karaoke or you go to bar. And then we like singing too. So the Korean clients like to go second round. And then if it's only one dinner, then nice restaurant, I guess. Right? That's how it is here. And then gift is always good. After transaction, if you a little bit, not like cookie, but something more, I guess something more expensive gift I would recommend.
Yeah, I'll also add, I've seen some really creative games being played with paying for the bill. I would only recommend this doing with your friends, on a personal level, and I'm a couple, I've actually done this. I've gone and paid the tab ahead of time before you even sit down. I did it at Olive Garden to a Turkish Armenian gentleman I know here, and he wasn't too happy about that, but it was a way to mess with him, because he almost always pays, so. That's like something you could do with a friend.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up our next point, and we'll start with Japan, Hannah, or Hiroko. When is it appropriate to start talking about business? Like, how long do you have to know somebody for? Can you start right away at a meal? How do people establish their relationships?
At the dinner or at the meal?
Just in general.
Oh, in general. Okay. So when we make an appointment for the business, and then first time to meet, we just introduce each other and share background. And typically, we started to do some business topics. But if we need to get to know each other, maybe after a couple times meeting, we just bring the client to the dinner or lunch, then more casually to talk, and then at the dinner or lunch table, we can, after a couple of minutes, we can start to talk about the business. Yeah, very general. Yeah.
Hannah?
Well, in here, for example, I think you can talk when you meet the person for the first time. Of course, you hand out the business cards, so you can talk about yourself briefly. But Koreans, I'll say we have the friendship is actually very important, I think. So it's better to be close, to meet first time or second time maybe, and third time maybe you can talk about business. But it depends. Like if you set up the appointment as a business meeting, then yeah, you talk about the business right away. But then it's nice to have lunch or coffee or something afterwards next time meeting, so you get to know each other, and then so I guess, and the Koreans I think here same thing. We get close very fast compared to other country like Japan and China. We have a very open heart, so we trust people. We don't really so we trust people easily, so we kind of talk, and as we talk, we get close already. So we don't have to really have like dinner 10 times and get close to each other. We're very open-minded, very friendly. So I think the first time you can talk about business and then talk about yourself, and then we ask personal questions sometimes, but don't feel bad about it because it's our culture. And then we are very open-minded. So if somebody asks me something like like age or something, we just talk about, I tell my age right away. I mean, I don't feel offensive. I don't feel bad. I don't think it's rude. So Koreans are, I think, very easy to get close to, I think, I'll say.
Interesting. Georgie? You ready?
Let's put it that way.
I'm throwing you guys off.
For the Chinese, it's the same. If you set it up as a business lunch or a business dinner, then they expect you to talk business. Not immediately, because usually you order, and then you talk about the most common topic in the whole world, food, okay? You talk about food, because that would always break the ice. And then, and even not going out for a meal, it's like, especially in the real estate industry, I mean, we don't wine and dine our clients that much. But as an icebreaker, food is always a good topic, okay? But then you want that appointment. So you set the appointment, you go in with the appointment, and because you set in with the appointment specifically, just to get that listing, let's just say, okay, they expect you to get right into business. Okay. However, if you go for a meal with them, because I have some agents that take them out for a meal, then they expect the courtesy, a couple of drinks later, and then they talk business. They don't want you to go into business straight away, because then that way, like, okay, this guy just wants my business. He doesn't really care about me.
Let's get Irma.
In Mexico, when we meet someone, normally it's by referral. Trust is a big thing in Mexico. They're not just going to go to anybody. So a lot of it is, in our business, a lot of it is on a referral basis. And then when we first meet, they're gonna tell us a little bit about themselves, and they want to know a little bit about who we are. How did we meet that person that referred them to them? And then we'll go into business. They don't do business, they don't go looking for agents. They normally like to be referred to someone. And it's normally the husband that will provide, the business type. They'll give you financials. They'll tell you more about their financial situation. The wife is the shopper, but the husband is the one that will come out and talk to you more about the business.
Interesting. India?
In India, I think we are similar to Mexico. A lot of the senior people, they would prefer going in through referral, their friends, their cousins, and because that is where they have already established a trust thing. If you are meeting them just for the first time, it's only for business. You can always start with small talk, and then you can talk about whatever you're there for. On general personal front, they really value the trust part. So once you're able to develop that rapport with them, that you're friendly and they know things about you, it'll be easy for you to go ahead and talk business on personal front.
Okay.
As I said, personal relationships are very important in Turkey. So that's really a preface to business, or prerequisite. I would, even if the first meal doesn't end up in business talk at all, I would be okay with that. I would just let it be, and you could just follow up again after the initial meet with another reason to invite them to a social gathering or something, but also not let them forget you either. So Yeah, so Turkish people like to do business with people they know and they trust and that they like. So the personal side is very important.
Okay, interesting. I think we're going to have some varied responses on this. At what point is it appropriate to bring your spouse to a business meeting, or is it appropriate? How about if we start with India?
Whenever invited. Usually for business clients, like in Mexico, where she said that it's the man who does all the financials and everything, it's going to be the same. If your wife is invited, then you're most welcome, you should go. But if not, avoid it. That's all.
Hannah, how about in Korea?
Well, Koreans, if you invite wife, you take your wife or spouse together. But if you're invited only yourself, then we go. So we don't voluntarily take our spouse to the meeting. Although some people wants to do it, then we don't. I mean, the host doesn't mind, but we do ask. So can my wife or can my husband come? Then so it's like very free, I think. And it's not, it's up to the host. And then whenever they want.
Okay. Georgie?
It's the same. If they invite you and your spouse or your other half, then you take it. However, like there's a couple of big deals that I closed, and I want to invite the clients up to dinner. I also tell them that, I'm going to bring so and so with me, just to make sure that they're okay and they know about it. And then and they usually, of course, I'm paying. Of course, they're going to say yes, but it's just manners to let them know. But if I get invited and they did not say anything about my spouse, then no, I don't bring it up.
Hiroko?
So if we are invited, we go with spouse, but typically in a business function, we don't include spouses so much. So when we go to the dinner after the project completion, we don't include spouses. And then, but in a private time, barbecue or just an appreciation party for clients or some friends, we always invite the spouses, but in a usually weekday business function, we don't include spouses so much.
Interesting. Irma, how about in Mexico?
In Mexico, the clients will always bring they always come in couples. If they and I always go, but if they suggest for me to bring my husband, I will. Otherwise, normally it's just me.
Bill Gay?
Yeah, a lot of the same. If it's the context is a meal or one-on-one meeting, the spouse is not going to be there. But if it's a large, like a gathering, a business function, as Hiroko alluded to, it's actually a good thing really good thing to bring your spouse along. Family, people are very respected in Turkey. The fact that you have a family, and so it would be a very good thing if you brought your spouse along.
So we talked about going out to dinner and socializing at a work event. Is it appropriate for opposite sexes to interact with each other or socialize after a meal? And we'll start with Bill Gay.
Me? No, it's not. You don't really socialize with the opposite gender in Turkey. It's just not good form.
Hannah, how about in Korea?
In Korea, a lot of Koreans in Korea. I mean, they like to hang out with group of people, not like one on one. And I haven't done the business in Korea, so I can't really tell. But here, let's say, if I invite the real estate agent who's after the escrow a dinner, Koreans, we don't get wrong information. We know we don't. Even though I ask my male agent, he doesn't think that I'm interested in him. But American, I've different culture, I've realized I've kind of had an experience that they take it differently. So, yeah. So if you are non-Korean, you guys normally don't ask for dinner, I don't think. So like if I invite a male Asian, let's say, hey, let's hang out, and then at dinner, don't think personally. That's like, we want to be a friend. We want to get to know each other kind of thing, but not in a different way. So, yeah, but I would still do that. But I try, the escrow officers, we don't really do marketing after hours, right? So, but occasionally, if I really am close to this agent, and then he was very, very loyal to me, then I want to treat. It's a Korean culture, like we treat dinner, something to eat, like lunch. So I try to do that lunch, because not to give him a wrong idea, but dinner, I have to be comfortable enough that he's the friend, then I would do it. And I wouldn't feel bad, because there's nothing I don't have a bad intention. But to show you the appreciation, I would treat them dinner. That's kind of cultural thing.
Interesting. Vietnam, how about in India?
If you talk about corporates, yes, it does happen. After your client meeting, opposite genders, they interact, they have meal, they'll go out for coffee, beer. It's okay. But if you're talking about you're going with the family, like in a real estate scenario, I'm not too sure if that would be very, how do I say it, very comfortable, because in India, we are more like, okay, if it's a business meeting, we are here, we'll talk, business, done deal, okay, done. And we should go back home. But things are changing. Like I said, in corporates, it is okay. So younger generation, they are accepting this culture. But for senior, I'm not too sure.
Irma?
Here, like I said earlier, a client will always bring their spouse. The male is the one that always does the financing and does the negotiations. But if the husband invites, for example, me for dinner, it's a disrespect to the wife. So normally it's a no unless the wife is coming. And in Mexico it's the same thing. Rarely are you going to see one-on-one. Normally it's the couple and the agent. Unless the male is cheating on the wife, then they'll invite them. But out of respect, we just say no. So.
Okay, Georgie?
It's usually for lunch. Like if it's for opposite sex, it's usually for lunch, because lunch is business. And then, and there's business dinners too, but usually in a business dinner, it would be at least 3 or 4 people. Normally it would not be a one-on-one. So let's say if I get invited by a client for one-on-one, I would change it to a lunch. I mean, just that there are no misunderstandings anywhere and not to offend anybody, because, I may be overthinking it, right? So let's just be safe, but lunch, but yes. And then especially with the millennials, yeah, they talk business all the time, lunch or dinner. So it just depends on the age group that you're dealing with as well at the same time. Because I think anybody over 50, they would not have dinner with the opposite sex by themselves. It's just not a done thing. Millennials, yes, because the mindset is different. It just depends who the other person is.
Hey, Rocco?
So maybe the things is changing recently, but back to 90s or when I was in Japan, we don't care to go to the dinner in person with an opposite gender. So it's of course, it's a keep a good relationship and keep distance, good to get distance. And we sometimes my boss took me out for dinner and then share real thought. What do you think about this position or something? So it's a very good time to talk. Honne, we call honne, the real thought to share. So, and then, but recently, the people think about family-oriented. So back to 80s or 90s, the Japanese business person are focusing for their business during the weekday. So although we have a family, if we have some business dinner, we sympathize to go to the dinner with the clients and then go to take care of the family on weekend. But recently, the younger generation think about, we have a family, so I cannot make it for the business dinner or something. So as the same situation, each opposite genders dinner or some lunch are typically okay in Japan. But I'm not sure recently, but yeah, in my generation, it's okay if we keep the good distance.
Okay, we're going to shift a little bit towards the business aspect. So Georgie, what is the proper way to vet somebody coming from China to find out if they're financially viable, or a way to get their financials to find out if they're going to be a client that will qualify for a loan?
Good question. There are a lot of foreign nationals that's coming here to buy, and they want a loan. And if they have enough money down, it's usually like 50% down, we can get them a foreign national loan. But the thing about it is that we still need to see bank statements. I mean, I'm talking from the loan officer point of view, because that's what I am. So I want to see the bank statements. It doesn't matter if it's in Chinese. I can read Chinese. And then I will have I can have a third-party translator to translate that, because that is what the underwriter would require. They don't want my translation, right, because of fraud. So I would get a third-party translator who would translate everything, all the documentation. That's a must, because even with 50% down, they still have to pay. And then they will say, well, how are you going to pay for the mortgage? And then they will also have to give me whatever documentation that they have. Because like in China, they get paid using a card. Okay, they don't get a salary check per se. Everything gets dumped into the card. So I said, I want the card statement. And they have to provide that, because then that would give me proof. And then I would need a letter from their company saying that they are employed. So that's how I would vet. There are clients that I have met and said, well, I have a friend who has a company. They can write that letter. I said, that's fine, but then I need the statement of the card. I need proof of that income. So remember, proof of income, that's number one. There is no credit score for us to run. 50% down. We need to see the cash, where it's coming from. That's number two. And then translation of all their documents.
And earlier today you mentioned something about the critical score system.
Oh, yeah, the credit score. Okay, so China doesn't have a credit score system per se right now, but it's in their starting one. It's in the pilot stages. They're going to push it out in 2020. And like for us, we have a credit score that tells us how we pay our bills, right? We forget to pay a credit card, our credit score goes down. In China, this credit score is actually a score of your person. So everybody starts with a perfect score 1,000. That's the perfect score. Everybody starts with that. And it goes down from there. So let's say that you get a traffic ticket. It goes down 50 points. Seriously, I kid you not. I mean, I'm like, my jaw dropped. If they found you doing cyberbullying, which is very, very prevalent right now, the score drops 150 points. So it's not just how you pay your bill, it's how you are as a person. And this is how the Chinese government is giving tabs on their people, because everybody's logged onto Alibaba, a lot of these Chinese sites, QQ, all these Chinese sites, and they can tell by what you buy. Let's say that you're buying a boatload of pencils and pens. Your score goes up because, oh, you must be studious. If you're buying a boatload of video games, your score goes down because then you must be a lazy good for nothing. So I find it absolutely, but it's not really a laughing, because when you think about it, if it goes down below 600, okay, then you are a bad person. Literally, you are. So when you go out to get hired, they're going to look at that. Your future employer is going to look at that score, and if you're under 600, they won't even give you the time of the day because you must be a bad person. We're not going to hire you. So this is another way of the Chinese government keeping tabs on the Chinese people. I'm glad I'm here. I'd be zero. Mine is zero.
You're not bullying anyone, are you? Irma, how about in Mexico?
What was the question again?
How you vet, it's probably similar to the United States, but how you vet your client to see if they're financially worthy.
If the client's coming from Mexico or Latin parts of Mexico, it's a cash basis. Now, if we have clients that are, again, buying from here into Mexico, again, it's pretty much all on a cash basis. So we just need to get proof of funds from them. A lot of clients right now are selling a lot of properties in Mexico to come and invest in the U.S. So we have a lot of that happening, and it's basically all on a cash basis.
Okay, Hiroko, how about in Japan?
So the same as Mexico, many of the clients are buying the property by all cash because not so many companies serve the international loan. But if they would like to get the international loan, they need to give us the proof of income and maybe sometimes asset in Japan. But it's sometimes it's very hard to get all the documentation to translate to English. And then if we have somebody, the business person who assigned from the big Japanese corporation to here to look for the rental property, we usually get the company letter which shows the annual income, and then although they don't have a social security number and then history, we need to get the proof of income with a company letter to show the landlord to feel comfortable to lend the property. So,
Interesting. Gyatani, how about in India?
In India, if somebody is coming here and they're buying, they're going to follow the rules that the way we do it, all the bank statements, everything. In India, otherwise, if you were prior to November 2016, you would want to do a property transaction, you can get cash for the major part of the deal. And the statement was, how are you going to pay for the deal? How are you going to pay for the property? It was black money or white money. It was very common. So the black money was the cash that somebody was getting and it was unaccounted for. And the white money was on the papers. It could have your tax statement, which is related to your PAN card, which is kind of a social security number for us, where it is related to our taxes. A TIN number. So, so those kind of amount, the white money was always low. In November 2016, there was a big announcement of demonetization, which was particularly to remove people who were doing these kind of transactions. Now the policies have changed, so you have to have 80 to 90% of your white money, which we call it, which you should have that kind of income, and they're still trying to, get it back on track with it. It's going to take time because even we don't have any credit score. in India. So it's like you go to the bank. So the bank are your are escrow, and they will do everything for you. So it's more convenient over here. The real estate agent, running around for you, getting something from the title company, and going. You have the escrow company doing everything for you. But over there, it's more like a one-man shop.
And do they have a system for a credit score?
They are planning to get one. So right now, it's all based on the tax information you give them and your income, everything. But it's not yet implemented.
Okay, Hannah, going to Korea.
I don't think I can answer that question. What was the question about the?
Well, it was about vetting your client and seeing how they're financially worthy. Where the money's coming from. Are they capable of buying the property?
So to ask a question to the clients. Okay. Well, the Korean clients, Korean clients, when you have a question about the financial questions, you just ask them straightforward. Whatever the question you ask, you'll get answered. And then if you're approaching the Korean clients who's from Korea or who's here looking for the house here, they're pretty much very open-minded to answer any question that you ask, and they'll just answer you right away. And then, so I don't know if I answered correctly.
You did. And does Korea have a credit score system?
Credit scores, that I don't know.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries. Bill Gay?
So if for the purpose of this audience, if you have a Turkish prospect or client is for a property here, I mean, they're not going to resist you on whatever if there's a lender involved, like Georgie, they're not going to resist you on proof of funds and that you need to get the transaction moving forward. So go ahead and ask for it. If the company's based out of Turkey, for instance, it's foreign national, then your lender's going to let you know what they need. Like if it's a letter from the company, like letterhead, if it's a statement from their accountant, financials or anything like that. So they'll be able to supply all that information to you. So don't hesitate really in asking for that information. In Turkey, property transfers and things work differently than here. There's no escrow system there. So, you actually can get from the bank an ability to fund letter on the part of the client. It's not so much like a bank statement. And there right now, particularly right now with inflation being high and currency fluctuation, like the Turkish lira has been losing a lot of value. So a lot of like the bigger transactions actually, and if it's a transaction that's going to take 30 days, for instance, like maybe a real estate transfer, then they're going to want to probably transact in euros or dollars as opposed to Turkish local currency too. So, yeah, those are kind of the other factors that come into play when doing business in Turkey. But as far as here is concerned, they're not going to resist you on documentation that you need to get the transaction moved forward, because they understand that's the way it works here.
Okay, working our way around from Irma, how is the current real estate market right now in your country?
Kind of the same as here. I mean, like I said earlier, there's a lot of new development in Mexico, and there's a lot of people that are buying from here and investing in Mexico. But then we have a lot of investors in Mexico that want to invest here. So it's going well. In Mexico, we don't have escrows either. They go through a notario público, which in Mexico is an attorney, to do transactions over there. So we've met a few, and they've been really busy with mostly resorts. So there's a lot of construction in resorts going on right now in Mexico again.
Yeah. Sorry.
real estate market in India?
Real estate market in India, it is slow. It is growing at a steady pace, but it is slow. So even the local analysts, they say right now it's not a good market to invest for higher returns, for buying or rental returns. So I think it is because of that 2016 demonetization effect. It's going to take some time to get back on track. The demand is high, but it is still not at that level where you can expect good returns.
Bill Gay?
Yeah, because of the lira weakening against the dollar, and then as a result, inflation and interest rates going up quite a bit, that has led to a tremendous slowdown in the real estate market in Turkey. Even in a huge commerce center like Istanbul, you're seeing huge increase in supply, which is leading to downward pressure on prices that out there. So, because the construction sector was very active, so they had already the developers and everything had already these units were already in process to be brought to market, and because they haven't been able to sell the prior units, that has added to further bigger supply. So, yeah, so it's very slow right now, the real estate market in Turkey.
Hannah?
Well, in Korea, from 2013 to 2016, the market went up, but a little bit, like 30%, not double. But 2 years ago, I heard that it was doubled, and then now it's only Seoul, Korea, the main city, went up, the latest report. But the other cities went down, but a little bit. So it's not going up like right now. It's not going up, but it's kind of only Seoul went up, and the rest of them got, went down a little bit. But compared to 2013, it's still up. It's still double. So that's what I heard.
Interesting. Hiroko?
So real estate market in Japan recently is very good because the economy is getting better. We had a huge recession in 1989, and maybe people will think about Tokyo or Japan's real estate is very expensive, but after recession, it's getting huge down. So not expensive than you think about the real estate in Japan, but recently getting better and better, especially Olympic game will be held in Tokyo 2020. So the people would like to sell or buy, especially in the urban area. But suburbs of Japan are very different. So people coming to the big city like Tokyo or Osaka, especially Tokyo, big metropolitan, so many population condensity happened. So suburbs of area is not so many young people are living, and many vacancy happened. So that's one of the big problem in the real estate industry in Japan right now. But basically, recently, the market is good in the cities, and yeah, good to invest the property.
Georgie?
Well, it's one country, two systems. So what is happening in Hong Kong is not what's happening in China, because how Hong Kong people get most of their wealth from is like here from their real estate. And what they used to do is that because they all usually sell condos because they don't have the land to build houses. So what they do is they look at the blueprint and they buy it from the blueprint, which is cheapest. So it's not even built yet. And so they buy it, and then by the time it's built, that one condo could have been sold 4 or 5 times, and it's like going up in price every time you sell it. And that creates a bubble, but because land is so limited, condos are so limited in Hong Kong, it just goes on. So that's what mainland China did before the Chinese government stepped in. The Hong Kong, as I said, is one country, two systems. So Hong Kong's still doing whatever they're doing, until, 2037, I think, is when it becomes one country, one system. In China, they changed. I don't remember exactly when they changed the system there, but in China, they only allow if everybody in China is registered to wherever that they're born, not just the province, but the city that they're born. Okay, so basically, it's like a like us, as we have the social security number, it's sort of something like that. But you are tied to where you are born. Okay, not where you work, not where you live, but where you are born. And so each person can buy one house, and it has to be tied to where you are born. So if you want to, let's say I was born in a small village, and I went to Shanghai, which is what everybody wants to do. They want to go to Beijing or Shanghai to work, and you go there, but because you're not born there, you can't really buy a house there. You got to buy back where you're living, unless you marry somebody that has the Beijing or the Shanghai piece of paper to say that they were born there, then you can buy there. So, and because of that, and they're limiting, they're not allowing you to make money. You have to buy something to live in. It's one per person or one per household. That I'm not sure of. But they stopped the wild roller coaster ride that Hong Kong has. And so that, because the market was going like this in China, and then it's just sort of like plateaued. And so now it's more steady, and the prices are not going crazy. There are still a lot, from what I heard, there's a lot of these really luxury condos that the builders were building, thinking that everybody's going to buy it. And a lot of them are still pretty vacant because they're really very expensive. $1 million condos. So the market has steadied down a bit, which is good because the Chinese government did not want a bubble, and that's how they controlled it.
Okay, in your country, in order to be a professional realtor or handle transactions, do you have a way of licensing in your country? And also, if you can talk a little bit about escrow and title, if you have the equivalent. And we'll start with Hannah in Korea.
In Korea, yes, you need to have a real estate license, and there's no escrow company, so the real estate license company takes care of all the processing of a purchasing. And then the test, I heard that is very difficult, and there are two kinds of tests. One is the one that is harder, like a broker. Test is harder than agents test, right? So there are two. So one can sell the property, handle the property all over the country of Korea, and then another one is for the certain the certain areas. So that's what I heard for two, and they don't have an MLS system. I heard, but that's how it is in Korea.
Okay, Bill Gay in Turkey.
Yeah, real estate professionals are not required to be licensed in Turkey. And there is no MLS either. So what you'll see is like a website that's just gained prominence, and agents will use that site to promote and promote their properties. But here's the other thing. So the system that we have here, where the seller pays for both the commissions, that's not the case there. So like buyers, agents have to be compensated by their client. Then you start getting very huge variations in compensation. And not only that, I think it's a problem because there's no uniformity of value. Here we know the property value includes the commissions that are paid to both the seller and the buyer's agent. And you pretty much know what the property is worth after, including the commissions. That's a problem. The other problem is that you'll see multiple agents, advertise the same property on the same site at different prices. At different prices. So, yeah, it's interesting, to say the least. And I think the other question was on escrow. There's no escrow company in Turkey. Where they did bring on, they didn't have this when I was growing up. They didn't have a mortgage system at all. You had to actually put up collateral to be able to purchase a home in Turkey. And now that there's a mortgage system, after you go into escrow, you actually give your earnest money deposit to the seller, and there's an appraisal that's done by the bank, and then you go to the governmental authority or the body at the end of the transaction to complete the deed transfer. So, yeah, so it's a little different.
Okay, Hiroko in Japan.
So we have a license, but not all the people required to get the license. Like here, the license is the examination is only one chance a year in October. So it's very difficult to pass. Only about the 30% or 35% people are passing the examination. So the DLE, like a U.S. DLE, required one licensee among 5 people in the office. So although they don't have a license, they can serve the real estate service under the broker. And then the commission is 3% from the buyer side and then 3% from the seller side. It's stayed in the law. So actually 3% plus $600 in some reason. So, so this stayed in law. So not here like negotiable, but it stayed. So the people, so if you or your client would like to purchase the property, the buyer needed to pay the commission. So the expense is a little bit higher than here. But the seller side, they pay only 3%, not the 5 or 6% to pay the commission. And then during the transaction, only one time they need to meet in person through with a licensee. The licensee will explain the detail of the contract. The contract is very small amount than here. But so the client, buyer or seller needed to go to Japan one time, one time, to meet the licensee in person to get explanation of the contract. And then you need to get the stamps, hanko stamps like a Chinese. So this is very important in Japan, not the signature. Just stamp. We need to put every single contract on stamp on it. But recently, the law is considering to change. It's okay to Skype meeting in person, but currently, the only one time, at least one time, they need to go to Japan to meet the people licensee.
Kiyotan.
Well, in India, the sorry. What is the question?
About the realtors being licensed.
Yep. The real estate, you're not supposed to have any real estate license if you're a single agent. However, if you're a developer, now you are required to register yourself with the government. This is a new change that has come in. We still have a long way to go. Now they are promoting all the developers to get more robust in giving what they are doing, along with the documents and paperwork, whether they are clear or not, about in the same way as we don't have any title company. So it's just one government official that you as a person, as a client, have to go there. But they're trying to make it like if a developer is building the whole community, the whole complex, they are the ones, they are going to provide that service. For escrow, we don't have escrow companies, but it's the bank. You can go to any bank. They will do the whole thing for you, end to end. You deposit your check as a seller, but you don't have any specific company doing that for the clients.
Irma.
In Mexico, like I said earlier, there's no escrow, there's no title, notario, an attorney, real estate attorney handles the transaction. Even though there's there's only 2 states in Mexico that require a license. Mexico really, you don't need to have a license to sell over there. And even there is a lot of agents in Mexico, but there's no requirement for a license. Most of the agents that are over there are mainly to sell resorts. But if you're not selling a resort, a lot of it is by word of mouth. they'll let someone know that a property's for sale and so and so. Social media is really big over there for sales. If you're selling commercial in Mexico, it's WhatsApp. They put up the listing on WhatsApp. If it's residential, it's on Facebook. So social media is really how they sell their property over there. Like I said, unless it's a resort, then it's through an agent, but it's not a requirement to have a license.
Excellent. Georgie?
No licensing necessary for China or Hong Kong either. Again, it's social media, Facebook, but they use WeChat instead of WhatsApp. There's no escrow or title. When you buy a house in China, you don't own the land. The government owns the land. So, so what you do is that, but you own the structure on top of the land, the house, I mean the actual physical structure. And so if you buy something, you go to the city and they will stamp on a piece of paper a property rights piece of paper, but it's the real property, not the land. Okay, and then when you transfer it, then you get a new piece of property rights for the new owner. And then if there's somebody else that has a grievance saying that, no, I actually own this property, then they have to argue in front of the department, the clerk there, and have proof, and the clerk will decide or may have to go to court which side owns the property. So, and I don't know how much, here lawsuits can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know. Thank God I don't know how much it costs in China. I don't intend to go into a lawsuit over there.
Okay, we have one more last question that's very important, and then we're going to open it up to questions and answers. Can Americans buy in your country, and if they can, are there any restrictions? Starting with Georgie.
There are no restrictions. Americans can buy, but preferably in cash. And however, I just heard this. I don't know it for a fact. If an American student buy there, they have to know the ins and outs because they can get ripped off very easily. Because you can't just have any agent. Go online and find any agent and think that, because there's no governing body like we do here. So you got to have a referral. Somebody referring you, somebody local there referring you to, that you trust, that refers you to a correct real estate agent. Or else you're going to get ripped off really, really easy.
So no restriction. So anybody can purchase the house and the land both, and then own the title. But I don't think international loan for the person not so much existing. So, and if you own the property, of course the property tax and other maybe income tax for the rental should be required. But the property tax is almost the same percentage, around 1%, but not so expensive because assessor's value is very lower than the market value. So, like here, not so expensive for the property tax. But you need to find out a good person who can take care in English. Unfortunately, not too many people can speak English fluently in Japan, but in big city like Tokyo, Osaka, we can find some suitable person to take care. And then I forgot to tell you the MLS, no MLS existing, but similar type of MLS, the lanes, we call lanes, and it's created like MLS, but they're not successfully to functioning. So each person needed to go to the portal site like realtor.com or Zillow or something. But there are tons of information to get to know. So yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, recently the law changed, so no restrictions for before about, I'm not too sure, but a couple of years ago there were restrictions for how many years you were living in Korea, and the price of the houses were there were like restriction there, but now no restriction. But the Korea has some areas like military areas and government use properties. Those you can't. But most likely the citizen of Korean, the foreigners, same, no restriction and pretty much the same, areas and everything. Same treated as foreigners too. So yeah.
Okay, Bill Gates.
Yeah, no restrictions at all for foreigners buying real estate in Turkey, nor additional taxation like we have here with FERPTA, as Hannah knows. And I will add, because of this, again, this system of being like variation and compensation, things like this too. Like the property values, unless on transfer, you state what the property value is to the government, then you pay taxes on that. So a lot of the older owned properties pay very little taxes to the government because they're just shown as a lower price property. I will also add a cool thing with Turkey real estate is they'll require the borrower, the bank will require the borrower to get life insurance on top of on top of the loan, so that it's not on the heirs, the property, the loan being paid off. So I think that's pretty neat part of real estate in Turkey. Yeah, so I think that covers that, right?
In India, as a non-Indian citizen, you cannot buy any immovable property. But you can inherit, if you have a partner who is an Indian, they buy it. Once you inherit that property, then you can make a transaction. But otherwise, as an American, non-Indian, you cannot just go there and buy immovable property. And even in India, being Indian, there is one state which is Jammu and Kashmir. Unless we are bona fide of that state, as a Delhiite or any other state resident, I cannot buy land over there at all. So we do have restrictions.
Being a neighbored country to Mexico, Mexico sells a lot of it, the currency, it's US dollars when you're purchasing. Can an American buy or a foreigner buy in Mexico? Yes. There is a restriction, a 30-year, so they're owning it for 30 years. After that, they could either renew the 30 years, they can pass it down to a family member. The family member then decides that they want to extend it or renew it for another 30 years. There used to be a restriction on oceanfront properties. That's not there anymore. They've lifted that, so anyone can really buy or purchase even an oceanfront, but there is that 30-year restriction that you only own it for the 30-year term. And then that goes for any country buying into Mexico, I think.
Okay, audience questions, go ahead, raise your hand if you have any questions.
I have a question from Mexico. I have heard that as a foreigner, if you have an EU passport, because of the years and years ago connection Mexico and Spain, you can actually own property outright.
Gregorio, do you know that? No. I'm not sure about.
So if because of the Spanish, they have some sort of a treaty, I was told. And so then you can actually own property, like with.
They changed it. Anybody can own property in Mexico now. They changed it like 2 years ago.
Yeah. There's that 30-year term as well.
And
This was without the 30 years.
yeah, you can do that too. What the restriction was is Americans can buy right next to the water. They took that out too. They took that off, and now anybody can own. Yeah.
Actually, I talked to a German citizen who bought over there, and because of the EU passport and that way back treaty, he actually owns the property outright. So I just wanted to verify.
Well, there's two different ownership. Depends where you buy. If you buy federal land, which is close to the ocean, then they have 30-year restriction. If you buy inland, There's no restrictions.
He was somewhere like around La Paz.
Yeah. Well, La Paz is 80% Americanized too. And yeah. 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 You can, well, depends on the city and the regulations of the government, local government. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked Georgie, so how do you transfer his money from mainland China to Hong Kong or US, or you can directly transfer his money to mainland China to US?
Transfer.
Money.
Transferring the cash from mainland
Yes.
China to U.S.
Uh-huh.
There is from what I understand, there's a restriction of how much money that you can transfer out of mainland China. Yeah, there's a however, there are millionaires that has bought in cash PV properties all over Beverly Hills and Brentwood in cash. So I don't know how they did it unless they did it through their company. That's the only thing that I can think of doing. But if it's an individual, yes, there is a limit how much money. So yeah, you have to transfer it to Hong Kong. I have a bank account in Hong Kong, transfer it to Hong Kong, and then have Hong Kong transfer out to America.
But is the Hong Kong have some complaints, so you can trust the people transfer money to Hong Kong, then it's transferred here?
That's very hard for me. I mean, I can research that because I haven't done it myself, so I cannot say, you know. But usually it's like HSBC because, you know, yes?
Yeah, I think I have experience with that. Now, used to be easier, but each person is only allowed to wire 50,000 American money. So sometimes they use the relative friends.
Right.
But if you buy a $2 million money in cash, how many hat they have to use? And, you know, and so it's a lot of trouble. I used to have a Chinese client, you know, easy, but now it's difficult. But the rich Chinese business person, if they set up a company in Hong Kong or other place, other country out of China, then they business wire the money
company
to here.
That's right. That's what I was
Individual, if you have a Chinese client individual, you have to be careful. Is you have to take a long escrow. Yeah.
or they have to have they have to start planning 6 months ahead to 1 year ahead and transferring the money to United States account first.
I feel still have a hard time to transfer money in mainland China to USA. I feel individual cannot find a way. They want to buy property. They ask me, they all use cash, but I have no way. I cannot do illegal things. So I just feel like the opportunity just lost.
But if you give me your card, let me research that because I do know of people from mainland China that because their kids are in school here at USC, and they buy their condos in cash here for the kids to live in for 4 years, and then they're just going to sell it. I wish I had that kind of cash. But anyway, but I can ask for you. I was never interested, but I'll ask for you if you hand me your card afterwards. Okay.
I have a general question for actually the entire panel. I'm just curious for, you know, when it comes time for somebody to purchase here in the United States, and I know a lot of you mentioned that the husband is the financial decision maker, but when it comes to make the decision to actually buy the house, are you finding that it can still be the wife, or is it always still the husband? Which one?
With Mexico, it's the wife finds the home. And the husband agrees.
He's just the banker.
In Korea, actually both, but whoever has more like power in the house, maybe. Sometimes it's wife, sometimes it's husband. But we don't have culturally, we don't have a like set person. I guess it just depends on family.
Depends on each marriage. My mom definitely bought our house in Istanbul. But Yeah, only bad decisions are made when men buy the home. So.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. There's a blue shirt gentleman. Yeah. Oh, do you want to?
Well, in India also, it could be both, but predominantly it would be the man who would be taking the decision.
In Japan, typically women, I think.
In Hong Kong and China, it's, I think it's 50-50, but mainly it's who's the breadwinner, who brings in the money, because they have a little bit more say.
This is for the panel in general. In an open house setting where you're meeting somebody for the first time, what, and each person could say, best way to engage, and also most common mistake or way to offend or be rude, not that you're trying to be. So it's a three-part. And is there also a way to engage when they're speaking in their, native tongue? So you're not being rude, but you're kind of being freezed out when someone's speaking in their language.
If they're speaking another language, they don't want you to know what they're talking about. So I would just stay out of that conversation altogether. Let them, talk it out, and then they'll come and ask for your advice at the appropriate time.
Hold on, you guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, for Koreans, I mean, you can try, if you try Koreans, I think we take it positive way. So if you want to, even if you make mistake, for example, if you pronounce wrong, we are all like trying to tell you that, we understand, but then some Koreans, we want to actually teach you to, talk, like speak right way, but then that doesn't mean we don't disrespect you. We like it, but we want to help too. So a lot of Koreans are very, like I said, friendly. So we don't take it badly. So I think it's a good point you do. And then what was the other question? To approach the Koreans?
Best way in an open house setting to approach, and then also anything that you may want to stay away from to potentially offend when you don't know you're offending.
I'll say for Koreans, even though they speak English very well or not, you give them a chance to talk. So if you talk a lot, or if they don't speak English very well, you might want to slow down a little bit and try to use the easy words, and then sometimes try to put some accent so that we understand. Like for example, me, if I talk to you, I guess I speak English better than I talk to Korean and Japanese. I mean, not Korean, but Chinese and Japanese. Even though I don't speak their language, I try to put some accent so that they understand me better. Maybe that's probably good. And then also the Koreans. We have a very fast personality. We're like all the time we're like a rush, like fast speed. So if you need to get some information about my information, you can ask, and then you can ask in advance. So we call that as very intelligent and smart. So we like smart agents, smart and nice too, but very to the point, but then upfront information. So you can ask as many information possible too. We don't think it's bad. We actually look at you very smart person.
With the Latin group, just greet the husband. If they come in a couple, just greet the husband first, and then ask if they have any questions. They'll normally will ask if they have any questions regarding the home or not. But just greet the husband first. It's respect.
Yeah, so the Japanese people, they're sometimes very shy, but just greeting, and if they are not fluently, you just speak slower, and then give them the hospitality. I think that's very good.
For the Chinese, usually when they go house hunting, a lot of times they go with as a whole family. So it's the mother, father, and then yeah, the grandparents and then the parents and then the kids. Okay, so what I usually do is that I always greet the elders first because that's a sign of respect. So you greet the elders first, and then sometimes I greet the kids, and then the parents are last. Because the grandparents usually have a lot of say of whether they're going to buy that house or not. As also because the Chinese really listen to their elders. That's like hammered into us when we're young. And if they speak in, well, it's best when you do an open house. Let's say you're doing an open house in Cerritos. It's mostly Chinese. Then have somebody that knows Chinese to do the open house with you. Artesia is mostly Indians. Have somebody that speaks Indian with you. I mean, that's what I suggest. And that's easier because it's easy for them to break the ice in the mother language than for an American to speak English to try to, because it's just not possible. I'm just telling you that right up. No, it's gonna, they were just gonna, if you're remotely interested, they won't let you know, you know, because they want, like, maybe haggle a little bit, because, you know, we love haggling. I mean, I love haggling, so.
Yeah, even Indians do love haggling. If you're approaching an Indian couple, it's the same thing, read the body language, the way she said it. It would be that both are taking the decision. Give them space. In case you feel that they are talking in their language, give them space. And once they start talking, yes, they do like people asking direct questions up front and not to read between the lines. And whatever questions you'll ask, they'll be happy to tell you.
I think you just answered my question, but it is more specific to Indian and Chinese families. When 4 or 5 people come in, who do you direct your conversation to? The oldest, I mean, sometimes it's maybe be a very old woman and an old man. Do you approach them first, or the more middle-aged people? Who do you?
I would approach the elders first, the oldest first.
Okay.
But then when you talk, because they may not understand English, but they always understand a smile, a handshake, right? Because that's universal. And then, but then when you actually want to talk about the details of the property, then you're going to address it to whoever that understands the most English, because they will translate, unless you know a native speaker. I mean, you have a native speaker there.
And I've been told that it is always the Indian grandmother who makes the decision about the house. Is that true?
Over here?
Yeah.
Well, if the parents, the grandparents, they are living here, yes, they will have a say and the kids will accept it. But unless you're coming across people who are first generation, you know, just come in like a lot of H-1B1 visa, in that case, like she said, probably the parents, they don't understand. They're going to go back. So it's going to be, you're going to be talking mainly to the husband and wife. Yes, elders, yes, even in our culture, we do put a lot of emphasis on saying hello and, you know, in their language. Yes, you can do that. But it's the couple. You have to see if the grandparents, they have been living here, yes, they will have this.
And I think Turks have, you know, they're very prideful about their ability to haggle. I think it's just known in the world. So if you go to Istanbul and you go to Grand Bazaar or the spice market and they pull you in, because you'll inevitably get pulled in by a really nice compliment or something, the way you negotiate there is just play the same game. Be really nice to them, personable, you know, and you'll be amazed what you can negotiate for yourself there.
Hi, this is for Georgie. I thought it was interesting how like the government in China intervened to kind of plateau the market, and here, I mean, it seems like the market is like limitless. It can go like as high as it can be. What are your opinions on like the Chinese intervening to plateau the market?
I think people forget that China is basically a communist country. And, you know, because they're so capitalistic, right? I seriously think that Chinese is the only culture in this world that is able to combine communism and capitalism together successfully. But the bottom line is that Big Brother is watching. And that is how the Chinese government flex their muscles. They interfere in the market all the time. And, you know, I mean, that's why, what is the name? Google is no longer in China because Google is saying, no, we will not give you our information. And that's why they have Alibaba instead of Google, because Alibaba is a Chinese company and gives all that information directly, consumer information directly to the government. So do I like it? No, because I was born and bred in Hong Kong. I left Hong Kong because of communist China, taking back. So no, I don't like it. But in a way, I think it's good because then there is no bubble. It protects the consumers.
Any more questions?
So today's presentation was all about global real estate. The reasoning behind picking these 6 panelists, which did an amazing job, is they're all in the top 10 of investors in America. So if you can imagine, at $180 billion, there's a lot of opportunity for you guys to go out and chase opportunity. So I want to thank everybody. I now have 6 countries to visit. It was fascinating hearing everything, and it's really amazing the different cultures and the similarities they have. Thank you.